This chapter closes the module dedicated to Advanced Linux for Security. You have traveled a long way. From user and group management, sudoer configuration, and the creation of restricted accounts, to writing executable scripts scheduled with cron, then to logging and auditing with syslog, journaled, and log rotate, and finally to system hardening based on the Center for Internet Security benchmarks and the principle of minimization. The purpose of this conclusion is to consolidate what you have learned, to give you reliable resources to continue, and to define concrete next steps so that your progression remains coherent and useful for a career in cybersecurity and secure delivery pipelines. Let us first summarize the core ideas you must retain. Linux security rests on a few durable principles that repeat across every topic you studied. Least privilege. Every user, service, and process should receive only the permissions strictly necessary to perform its task. This is why you created a restricted PenTest user rather than working as the root administrator, and why sudoer rules should be narrow and specific. Minimization. Reduce the attack surface by removing unnecessary packages, disabling unused services, and closing ports that are not required. A machine that does less is easier to defend. Traceability. Nothing is truly secure if you cannot observe it. Logging with the system logging daemon, syslog, the journal daemon, journaled and log rotation, log rotate, ensures that events are recorded, kept for a defined period, and available for investigation. Defense in depth. No single control is sufficient. You combine strong authentication, careful permissions, auditing, and hardening so that if one layer fails, others still protect the system. Reproducibility. Security tasks should be scripted and scheduled so they run consistently. A cron job that verifies configuration every night is more reliable than a manual check performed occasionally. Now recall the practical skills you developed and why they matter in a professional environment. User and sudoer management. You learn to create accounts, assign groups, and grant elevated privileges precisely. In a real engagement, a well-scoped account prevents accidental damage and limits the impact of a compromised credential. Restricted PenTest user. Isolating your testing activities under a limited account protects the host and produces cleaner, auditable actions. This mirrors how professional teams separate roles and responsibilities. Scripting and scheduling. Making a script executable with a change mode command, chmod, and scheduling it through cron lets you automate detection, cleanup, and reporting. Automation is the backbone of both defensive operations and secure delivery pipelines. Logging and auditing. Scanning the authentication log, commonly located at /var/log/auth.log on many distributions, allowed you to detect failed logins, suspicious sudo usage, and brute force attempts. Reading logs is a fundamental investigative skill. Hardening with the Center for Internet Security benchmarks. Applying a checklist on a laboratory virtual machine taught you to turn abstract recommendations into concrete configuration changes and to verify them. These competencies are not isolated. They connect directly to the broader goals of the full program, which include conducting web and application penetration tests on an authorized perimeter, mastering tools such as the network mapper, nmap, the packet analyzer, Wireshark, the exploitation framework, Metasploit, and Python scripting, and building a secure delivery chain with continuous integration and continuous delivery, static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, and software composition analysis, including container security. Here is how the Linux Foundation feeds into what comes next. Penetration testing. A solid command of the Linux command line, permissions, and processes makes reconnaissance and exploitation far more effective. Many security tools run on Linux and expect familiarity with the shell. Continuous integration and continuous delivery. Hardening and scripting skills translate into building secure build agents and runners. Least privilege applies to service accounts and pipeline tokens just as it applies to human users. Container security. Minimization directly reduces the size and vulnerability count of container images. A minimal base image means fewer packages to patch and fewer flaws to exploit. Auditing and monitoring. The logging habits you formed prepare you to configure centralized logging and alerting in production, an essential part of detecting attacks early. To continue learning effectively, use trustworthy and durable resources rather than scattered tutorials. Prioritize the following categories. Official documentation. The manual pages accessed with the manual command, man, and the documentation of your distribution are authoritative and always current for your specific version. Recognized standards. The Center for Internet Security benchmarks, the guides published by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, and the Open Worldwide Application Security Project resources provide structured, peer-reviewed guidance. Hands-on laboratories. Continue practicing on disposable virtual machines and isolated networks. Never test techniques on systems you are not explicitly authorized to touch. Authorization is both a legal and an ethical requirement. Community knowledge, reputable security blogs, conference talks, and open-source project documentation keep you aware of new threats and defensive techniques. Adopt good habits that will serve you throughout your career. Keep systems updated. Apply security patches promptly, because unpatched software is one of the most common causes of compromise. Document everything. Record what you change, why, and when. A hardening checklist and a change log make your work auditable and repeatable. Verify. Do not assume. After applying a configuration, test that it actually behaves as intended. A rule that is present but ineffective offers false comfort. Automate repetitive checks. Use scripts and cron to run recurring verifications, so that security is continuous rather than occasional. Respect scope and law. Only act within your authorized perimeter, and treat data and credentials with care. As concrete next steps, plan your immediate progression like this. Review the quizzes you completed on users, scripts, permissions, logs, and hardening, and revisit any topic where you felt uncertain. Build a small personal laboratory with 2 or 3 virtual machines to practice attack and defense safely. Move into the networking and tooling chapters where you will apply the network mapper and the packet analyzer, then into scripting with Python to automate tasks. Prepare for the delivery pipeline modules by understanding how static application security testing, dynamic application security testing, and software composition analysis integrate into continuous integration and continuous delivery. In conclusion, Advanced Linux for Security is the operational foundation on which the rest of your training stands. The principles of least privilege, minimization, traceability, defense in depth, and reproducibility will reappear in every future chapter. Master them here, keep practicing in controlled environments, rely on authoritative resources, and you will be well prepared to become a cybersecurity and secure delivery specialist. The work you have done is not an endpoint but a launchpad toward penetration testing, tooling, and secure application delivery.